Hello, hello, hello. This is Emile Jarreau, Master Personal Trainer at M2 Fitness Pros here in Long Beach, and together B Fox and I have been training basically everybody in the world. No, seriously. After a zillion years and thousands of clients, you can see all about us on the website, but this is the Clean House Diet 2.0 and part of a series of videos that I use to teach clients quickly in plain language, simple enough visual images and things to help you understand a very complex subject quickly. And I would like to break it down. Now, I filmed a video at the beginning of the year, last year, and it did a lot to help people understand some basics. But what I understand with a lot of people is that they're in such a hurry these days that they, if it's longer than like a 1-minute Vine on Facebook, they don't want to watch it. And that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that we are in such a hurry all the time. Our attention span right now is at about 8 seconds. And if someone doesn't really hit us over the head or, sit us down in a chair like the movie Syriana with George Clooney, where the guy is literally pulling out his fingernails with some pliers, that'll get your attention. So, it's not until people are in absolute pain, they're tired of being overweight, they're tired of their clothes not fitting, and, they've gone through a divorce, lost a job, had major life trauma before they're ready to dealing with their situation, whether it be their body and health, their money and their career. These tend to be common situations. So let's talk about this real briefly as I go along here in the Clean House Diet 2.0. So here we are, lucky to be live in the USA. We have some of the best advantages, and what I typically find out from a lot of people, I ask them, have you ever traveled around the world? Have you ever left the state of California? Have you ever left the city of Long Beach? Some have. A lot of people surprisingly have not left the state of California, or at least left the U.S. So if you've traveled out to Europe, and I don't mean necessarily the vacation destinations, but I'm talking about poor countries. And part of my military experience was about going to some of the poorest countries in the world because we were providing military aid. Typically what happens after we go to war with countries, we actually go in and help clean up some of the stuff, and we organize things there to make sure that the governments and the businesses and things that are running there help their process to get on their own 2 feet. Now, without turning this into a big political thing, there are some elements that are really important for people to understand about why the foods we eat in this country do exist and why there isn't and are not as many controls on the food in our country to help make sure that the citizens here in the U.S. eat the best foods available. Even though all of us are relatively intelligent, we're smart, but the 2 things that I've found that they do not teach in school, basically the 3 things, is 1, how to set goals and how to stay positive and follow a good plan for your mental mindset. The other is how to understand nutrition and diet fairly quickly and well. And then the other thing is how to figure out how to deal with your money and finance really well. So I'm not a finance expert. I'm figuring that out just like everybody else is figuring out their diet. I have this diet thing down pretty good. It's so good, it's helping me make a really good living doing it and teaching it my way. So let's go on to this next slide. On the screen you can see some of the big corporations on the globe that run basically the supplements, the foods in the stores, the grocery stores. And when I describe this next phase, if you start talking about big pharmacies or big pharma or big agriculture, a lot of this is all tied into each other because the drug companies and the big pharmaceutical companies and the big agriculture and big business and the corporations basically all work together to create kind of a monopoly on what you see on the shelves, in the stores, on TV. And, one of my other videos I talk about being a kid growing up in the 60s and basically sitting in front of the TV set all day and watching the shows on TV, and then in between, like cartoons on Saturday or my favorite sitcoms all through the week until I joined the military, there were commercials that basically promoted this glamorous lifestyle or this person being relatively happy, and I mean nobody in the 60s and 70s, literally nobody was overweight. And they never filmed shows where people on TV were overweight. They wanted everybody to have a perfect look so that they could sell products. And if you've ever seen the show Mad Men on TV, that gives you a clue as to how they would sit in meetings and come up ways to sell a product to the American population or public to raise the profits of a company. So this is, on one level it sounds kind of diabolical. It sounds kind of like a conspiracy. And, I'm not mad at a business. I mean, the reason businesses start to go into business is to make money. Not only make money for themselves and the company and all the employees and all of the companies around the world that employ all of those employees, even in some of the poorest countries on the planet. If it wasn't for the jobs that were created by Kellogg or Coca-Cola or Nestle or any of the other corporations that the U.S. has, some people wouldn't have jobs. And so it does, on one side of the equation, make a lot of dollars and cents for some companies overseas to start their process there so people can survive. And so that's really good. But on the flip side, without educating people to understand what they're putting in their bodies, it's creating some of the problems we're seeing today. And it wasn't until the late 80s where this stuff started to surface. And so I was right on the front end of this stuff in the 60s watching it happen. So basically, like I mentioned in the show Mad Men, and a lot of what you see in magazines, commercials, and TVs, we actually had a commercial that they filmed at our studio here in Long Beach, not this last Super Bowl, but probably a Super Bowl ago or so for GoDaddy. And Danica Patrick ran around, and she wore like this muscle suit, and all these bodybuilders are running down the street, and they ended up at our studio, which they had converted into a spray tanning studio. And so GoDaddy was hyping, Danica Patrick's celebrity status with the racing car circuit, but to do a GoDaddy commercial about, their branding and their products. So the brand is GoDaddy. They had a commercial advertising this particular product, and strategy in this commercial was the bodybuilders. And based on research, and right now, even this time, because of the internet, and the ability for companies to watch what you search for while you're at home on your cell phone or your laptop or your desktop, big gov and data companies are working together to help understand what you search for, and they're gathering just huge amounts of data and information to understand what the population, what the public is looking for. And then once they start to see in a particular area of a city, a state, a region in the U.S., a certain age group, male, female, so on and so forth, start selecting some of the things that they do, then these companies back here begin to formulate their way in which they're going to put the right kind of language, the right picture on their product, the right buzzwords: new, fantastic, miracle, organic, good for you, fat-free, sugar-free. They're going to label these things a certain way, and they're going to test market these products, and they're going to do what's called control groups and think groups or think tanks, and they're going to ask people's opinions, and they do years and years and years of research to come up with the strategy to kind of basically sell their product. And there's everybody knows who Sigmund Freud is, and he had a nephew called Edward Bernays. And if you see my wall on Facebook, I talk about Edward Bernays designing a company called the Council on Public Relations. And basically that is basically marketing. A company designed around B.F. Skinner and Pavlov and the way that they started to develop strategies selling products to the American population, because they knew what we wanted to buy based on some of our insecurities and fears. Everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel sexy. No one wants to disappoint mom and dad. No one wants to disappoint their higher power, so they want to follow the rules and be a good person. This is what they know in marketing. This is how they decide to start selling products. Now, if they know all of this stuff, why are they trying to do that to us? Why are they misleading us? Why are they taking advantage of us? Some of us already know this stuff, but a lot of people, from my experience, 13,000 people, I'll remind you, once again, I have more experience than the average person dealing with people, helping them to understand this process. So how do these companies get these products on the shelves? Well, I was reminded of this by a program and a post that I saw, what's that called? Schoolhouse Rock. And it started in the 60s, and there was this little old bill. How do I get passed as a bill? And this little old bill goes through this process so that it can start as an idea, and it goes through, Congress and the Senate, and it has to go through all these different channels before it gets yayed or nayed, and then it goes through the second and third reading, and then it passes or it doesn't pass, and then the president or speaker of the House votes on it, and it might get, killed, or it might go on to the final chapter, and then eventually, after a few months, become a law and or become, legal. And then, or it might even just go and bypass what goes on here at the House and Senate and go straight to the FDA. The FDA is another organization that was set up, and I'm going to kind of go through some of these pieces here real quick. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, he was running for president, George McGovern, and he wanted to, help bring some clarity to people in their understanding about what was going on. And he started to really help educate people, and guys like he and Ralph Nader, these were two activists that really wanted to start making sense of what was going on with people's health and government policies and the reason things were getting passed, and they couldn't really figure out what was going on. So they started to look a little bit into the mechanisms behind what's referred to as lobbying. And this is, where a guy is hired to come in and influence the decision-making of legislators that are getting ready to pass a bill. Is it illegal? Is it shady? Is it wrong? It depends on who you ask. I've seen zillions of shows. 60 Minutes has a bunch of shows. If you want to know more about it, reach out to me. But if at this point you're still listening to this and you trust some of the things that I'm telling you about this, lobbying is a way on K Street, right outside the Capitol there, where these guys have offices, and they have some of the best restaurants right there. So what they'll do is they'll invite some of the lawmakers to come in, the lobbyists, come in, we buy lunch, and they've got this figured out to the point, if I sit down at a table with you and I discuss these things, it's illegal. But if we do it like we're standing and just two guys talking about, hey, I have this new bill that's coming to market, I have this new supplement that they're going to start selling at the, such and such store, or there's a new food product that's going to the stores, can you help get this bill passed? And he, the legislator might say, well, I don't know. And in this instance, this is the private donor hiring the lobbyist to then hire and go over and talk to the person in Congress or Senate to help influence the bill. So if you follow our political machine, and again, this is a quick overview, but it could be, just about any person with deep pockets donating and hiring a lobbyist firm, special interest groups to come in and influence some of the marketing that goes on. So in Washington, you got this slick guy, like, I'm going to help make decision making easier for you. I've done all the hard work. I've done the homework. I'm here to save you. And it's usually a fairly good looking person, really attractive, because people want to believe good looking people think, I don't know, Bill Clinton, think, JFK, relatively, better looking individuals. Obama's in office now. He looks real good. It's looking kind of different now who's getting ready to get voted in. But this image right here is supposed to be this guy. Now, the story now is finally out about Bernie Madoff, and he was in the financial world, and the movie Spotlight came out about, certain aspects in the church, and the other movie called The Big Short talked about the finance world. Well, this guy, Jack Abramoff, was one of those lobbyists, in a special interest that was hired to come in and influence lawmakers, tell them about issues, pay them to make a vote happen a certain way, and then get some of these bills passed into law fairly quickly. And so this process not only happens here in the U.S., but it happens around the world. It happens in every country as America starts to spread its influence. And now we are teaching basically the system to the European Union. We're teaching it to Russia. China's picking up the model. Everybody in the world is figuring out this strategy that started originally here in the U.S. And, it's a deep, deep subject. And, you may know more about this than I do. And I've studied it now for quite a few years. And the understanding of how these laws, come into play so that they can be passed as a bill. And, it's really a big challenge. And it's, in the UK, everywhere around the world. So it's a way of doing business to spread and change policies, to influence the masses, influence the media, and, get certain things passed. You may know some about the drilling. You may know some about the NRA. You may know some about stricter gun control. And then, our big war machine right now. So it's not just supplements. It's not just food products. It's just about everything going on here in the U.S., but it's all basically tied together in the fact that unless Americans, unless citizens here in the U.S. educate themselves to understand these things a little bit more about how things actually work, here's one that I, have very, very close experience with. My father died of cancer, and lots of relatives and family members earlier on in my life, and we still are dealing with this. But between alcohol abuse and cigarette smoking and obesity, these are, more, and then, driving without seat belts and on our public highways, these are more dangerous than anything else. But they actually told people for many, many years, oh, no problem, cigarettes are no big deal. And they use actors and actresses, and they make it look like the marketing. And this is that madman philosophy. How can we start to promote some of this stuff so that people will buy our product? And it is crazy when you start looking at this. If you really, really want to know more about this, reach out and talk to me. But, part of what goes on, they start the ad campaign, and the same thing happens in the medical community. Doctors make some extra money for selling certain products. And right now, what's recently happened, and this is a turn of events that's just now in the news, you'll see a lot of books that I recommend on the wall on Facebook, one called Dark Money, and they talk about some of the money that's influencing every industry, and it's about profit. It's about making money. So the schools and the subject matter in the schools is actually being taught by the people that own the hospitals, that own the schools, and that own the universities that are teaching books written by the professors of these special interests. And so it's all one system of learning and trying to teach and educate people. And money's a hard it's a pretty serious thing. People want to make as much money. We're only on the planet for a short period of time. And I can't blame people for making money, but at the point where it becomes illegal and it becomes exploitive in that taking advantage of people because they don't know the truth and aren't educated as much about it, they get taken advantage of. So in this country, it is like common practice for, a doctor right now. As you've seen in our country, the medical community has been hit really, really hard with a lot of policies and regulations to stop them from making the kind of money that they used to make in the good old days, because corporations are now running and dictating how medicine is practiced, how it's done, and our healthcare system is influenced a certain way to control the process all the way down to the second with the type of care. And, because of these restrictions, doctors don't make nearly what they did or what their parents did when they were coming up. Like my mom's parents, chief of staff in a hospital. My mom and my father were doctors. My father was a surgeon in MASH in Korea. And so when he got out of the military, he worked in the hospital. My mom worked in the hospital, and her parents were both doctors. And, I've got medical history in my family that's ridiculously experienced. And so I don't know how I drifted into this field, but I get it. I get it really well. So I spend my time helping you understand the system that's been created that's kind of keeping us in a crazy place. All that is required for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Meaning, if you were a good person and you knew the truth, but you didn't tell the truth because you wanted to make money first instead of save lives, I think that's a challenge. There are a zillion book recommendations. There are literally a million of these books that are coming out every year. And I've read every single one of these books in my lifetime. I read at least 4 to 6 books a month, 4 to 60, 70 books a year. And then, over a decade, that's 400 or 500, 600 books in a decade, 20, 30 years. of reading books like this. So I do have some key people. Marion Nessel, highly recommend her books on nutrition. This woman was a writer for several major magazines, major universities. She's still alive. She's still teaching. Try to look her up. Find out if you want to know more in depth about this subject. But it's about big agriculture, big pharma. The corporations that run these industries really influence how the lobbying goes. And so when you go to the store and you start to see what's on these labels, you really don't understand. And this woman says, honey, they found a way to make us lose weight, and it's all magical packaging. What color sells the best? What wording? What looks the best? What image looks the best? Everything on these labels is carefully manufactured to get your consent to believe that you want to buy it. And, I can't blame it. I can't blame people. Since I was a kid, I've watched. Here I am, 1960. I've watched this. And here, 1980, I joined the military. We went to war. Right here, I got out of the military. And right when I started my business and personal training in 1989, 1990, I've watched this slow rise in obesity all the way up. And we are right now at better than a third. As far as I'm concerned, I think these numbers are a little bit off, but I look out my window every day and I see it. Probably about half of our society is overweight, obese. I check body fats every day. I see it. And what ends up happening is this person gets scared to death. They go to the doctor gets them on diabetes drugs. Their thyroid's not functioning well. They're depressed. They're overweight. They can't breathe. They're getting sick all the time. They can't figure it out, and they're sad. They are the first group of people that I have seen in this society that end up really, really struggling for the next 50 years of their life. So if you are, in your 20s and 30s and you're listening to this still, after me ranting about it, you need to make some adjustments. You need to hear what I'm saying. If you don't listen to me and you're in my schedule and I catch you still screwing up, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to beat you up, right? I'm telling you straight. I talk to my clients. I get permission to tell you the truth because I'm just mad. I'm just angry at the fact that people are not understanding how sick it is to watch people get themselves intentionally sick and they're being misled. So you got to change. You got to change. Or, have the bottom fall out. It's up to you. All right? Since 1960 to 2013, it is now 2016. I've watched people typically same age, same education level, due to just not wanting to think because they tell themselves, I don't have time. I don't have time to read the labels. I just need you just give me a list, tell me what to eat, and I'll do it. I'll figure it out, just make it simple for me. I don't want to make it simple for you. I want you to think. I don't want you to ever turn around and say, well, you never told me. I'm telling you, pay attention. Pay attention. Okay? This country is set up on the system of trying to make money. Everybody makes money off the fact that people would choose to turn down the light of consciousness and not want to know the truth. And this happens in every single industry. Whether you want to buy a car, whether you want to get medical insurance, whether you want to get financial service, you want to buy, a house. People, they just drill you with tons and tons of paperwork. And unless you take the time to learn this stuff, you're going to get taken advantage. Somewhere, somehow, you're going to get caught. But the funny thing is, you wake up when you get burned and you get as mad as I am. And I've been burned in just about every area that I just mentioned. So understanding the cycle in this country. Our country's basically set up. It's like, hey, we want you to eat more. I want you to eat more food so you can get sick, so that you can buy my drugs, you can go to the hospital. Crazy, right? It's crazy, right? I'm looking in this refrigerator, and half of this stuff, I ask clients now, instead of going to their house, just take a picture of your refrigerator. Let me see how you're living. What do you buy? And right here, I would beat this person up. I see more crap in this refrigerator that is just killing them from the inside out. It's not even funny. Yeah, but I have some fruit down here. That's good. But it's all this packaged crap that's in the drawers and the doors, the liquid, the sodas, the juices. This is the stuff that's killing people. Milk? This isn't even milk anymore. Did you see it come out of a cow? Did you see it come out of a cow? And have you seen what goes on when they raise these chickens on these big farms and they make these eggs? You really got to watch some of this stuff. Fast Food Nation comes to mind. That's a movie that's really crazy. Now, our country, we make money off of people staying less informed. Another way to say it would be to keep you dumb, keep you ignorant, but less informed sounds more PC, doesn't it? Sounds better. It doesn't sound like I'm trying to insult you. And I'm not. But this is the language that shuts people down. So if they hear someone saying something that mentally they don't agree with because they think someone's poking fun at them, then they right away get mad. And if you're mad, you're not listening. And if you're not listening, you're not learning. And if you don't learn, you don't change. So right here, again, another map. You can go to the CDC online. You can look at the obesity rates and trends in the U.S. from just 1990 to 2009. I couldn't go all the way back to 1960 because they didn't have all of this stuff in the 60s, right? That's how old I am. Wow. So you have to go look at regular books, and you look at this stuff, and you look at this right here. See this? 30 and 25%. This right here is BS. It's probably more like these states all over the place. I know Wisconsin up here is close to that right now. Right here in California, I consider this and some of these other places where people are calling us a bunch of progressives and conservatives and tree huggers and all that. No, those are just other labels to them so that it can, distract everybody. But really, it's about getting educated. It's about getting informed. Marion Nestle wrote something about, and this was an article that she had on one of her lectures, the woman who wrote food politics. And you look at this, going through the dark, and let's not even start talking about the religious thing, because that's another can of worms that gets people crazy when you start talking about religion. Politics, religion, your favorite sports team, whatever thing we start talking about, people want to get mad. When they get mad, they stop listening. But everybody wants to look sexier. Everybody wants to have better energy. And right now I'm telling people, let's not worry about getting a six-pack like dude over here. Let's just get our stomach flat. Let's just get it flat. Never mind the six-pack. If you're 20 and you've got 8 hours a day, 25 hours a week is what I used to spend training and going into the military. I don't have that kind of time right now. I don't have that time. I'd rather turn that time into time spent studying the stuff I'm talking to you guys about. So I wanted to give you this brief overview. Look, if it didn't exist, come out of the ground, off of a tree, if a farmer didn't bring it to the market in a bushel or a basket, if it can't sit on a shelf and the bugs and the critters and the birds and the animals don't steal, if it doesn't rot and get mold on it, don't eat it. Look at the stuff over here. It's that simple. But yet people are so stuck in their addictions and the things that they heard. Well, I read in the magazine, and this little girl that I saw, this little guy on Instagram, he's got a great body, and well, he's selling this product or supplement. It's bull. It's absolute bull. So if you get into my schedule, be prepared to get drilled. I'm going to be all over you. But right now, people need accountability. They need someone that's going to tell them the truth. I'm not making any money off this stuff. Only thing I make is a decent living off of helping you guys get there. I am not going to be here forever. I want you to learn this stuff so you can get to where you need to be with your body and your health, so you can keep the lights on in your house, food in the refrigerator, take care of your family, stay the hell out of the hospital. Definitely don't get put in a grave too early so you can go out and live your life. Really. It's pretty simple. What kind of life do you want to live? All right. Hey, I'm done with this little video clip, 30 minutes of it. My name's Emile Jarreau, together with B Fox here at Long Beach on Pine Avenue at 315 Pine, M2 Fitness Pros. Give us a call, 562-435-4639. I do a lot online. I can help you there. You don't want to believe it? You don't want to come in? Fine. That's absolutely fine by me, because there's lots of people every day that are waking up that are ready to listen and learn and change their life. Do you want to be in the VIP or not? Totally up to you. All right. Love you lots. Hugs. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.